This is GRL Raw, the podcast where the GRL team tells you why they're different. Who the hell are they? Why should you want them fighting for you? The industry leader in law with over 180 years of combined experience. This team is here to shed light on crucial topics in law to keep you aware and informed, because it comes back to the primary point. We give a damn.
Episode 10.
Yeah, evens. We're ending on evens. So, welcome to season 2, episode 10.
That was good.
That was quality.
Yep. The one thing we're going to be good at cracking beers after season 2.
Don't tell anybody it's 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's all right. Work has to be done. We are here to do it. GRL Raw, live in the house. I am Bobby. This is Donut. We're going to talk about
Revenge porn. Otherwise known as non-consensual pornography.
I think the porn part is consensual. It's the dissemination, right?
I don't know. They're calling it non-consensual pornography these days.
I got an issue with that, but we'll take that up as we go.
We'll get there.
Yeah, because I think, anyway, we'll have a good discussion about that. We always start off with, or we've tried our best to start off with hot current events that have an application to what we're about to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So do you have a current event?
I sure do.
I'm impressed. I have no idea what this is. What is the current event?
The current event is within the last few weeks, a Texas woman was awarded $1.2 billion after suing her ex-boyfriend who shared
A billion with a B.
Billion visually intimate photos of her online and in emails to family, friends, and colleagues.
So there's getting even, and then there's
$1.2 billion.
$1.2 billion. Does he have it to pay?
He has absolutely no money. It's like $0.
So he's negative 1.2 billion.
Yes. But he put all of these photos and videos that were taken non-consensually on multiple social media websites, accounts, and as I said, he sent it out to family, friends, her business colleagues, and he also created, which I'd never heard of this, a public Dropbox folder, and just invited the world into the Dropbox. And
So he took it to a whole new level.
he didn't take the breakup well.
Clearly.
But yeah, he took it to a whole nother level. And the interesting part is that 30 minutes of juror deliberation.
They just
came back with $1.2 billion, $1 billion in punitive damages, and $200 million of actual damages.
Fun fact. Ready for this?
Yeah.
He can't discharge that judgment in bankruptcy.
And is it because punitive?
It's an intentional act, and it's punitive damages. You cannot discharge that in bankruptcy.
So while they knew all along that he didn't have any money, the lawyers, of course, say this is about deterrence, and they learned early on that he didn't have any assets. They're getting paid somehow. I didn't, obviously.
Well, no, so this ties into a GRL case.
I figured this was coming, yeah.
Well, we've done it to make a point. Corey got that ginormous $100 million verdict in Polk County on a sexual assault case, and the defendant in that case, wasn't flat broke, but isn't going to pay the $147 million or whatever.
No, but
it was.
every check that he gets, a portion comes here and a portion goes to the plaintiff.
That is true. So sometimes I like it. I like it when a lawyer's willing to take up a cause for the greater good. That opens up some interesting questions that we'll talk about on the civil justice side of it. Did it say if the guy was ever charged with any crimes?
It did not. he was not charged with any crimes. Texas has it's called the Relationship Privacy Act, which does have both civil and criminal penalties. I didn't find out why he wasn't criminally charged, but it seems like, especially from the lawyers wanting to go after him, even knowing there's no assets and the $1 billion in punitive damages, I'm going to guess he probably should have qualified.
Somehow skated.
Yeah. He probably would have qualified for a crime here in Iowa.
Well, 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Should we just jump into that right now, or is there more that we need to talk about?
I think one thing that's interesting that was noted by these lawyers and I've seen elsewhere is that 1 in 8 adult individuals with social media have been at least threatened with a disclosure of intimate photos, which is really high.
Yeah. So take what your mom always told you. If you don't want it on a billboard, don't send it, to a whole different level. Because this dude pretty much put it even worse than on a billboard.
Yes. A public drop box. I didn't even know that was a thing.
That's amazing.
I know.
Don't give people ideas.
No.
So okay, so let's talk about this. So the general description for what that guy did, and we're going to be Iowa specific, is what's commonly referred to as revenge porn.
Yes.
Which is where people are in a romantic relationship. They send naughty pictures back and forth, nudies, whatever it may be. They get saved.
Yep.
They get cataloged, whatever it is, however people do that. And then the breakup happens. Inevitably. The love lease runs out.
It does.
And one person isn't happy.
Yeah.
And then
they're looking for revenge.
And so they think, oh, hey, hold my beer. I got an idea. This dirty little floozy, I'm going to go tell the world and show the world how naughty they can be.
Yep.
Or the other, this also happens, by the way. We field calls on this. One partner, say they're married.
Okay.
One partner finds their spouse's naughty pictures engaged in extramarital shenanigans.
Yep.
And so the spouse decides to let the world know how big of a cheating butthole the other person is, and sends their mom,
yep,
their dad,
yep,
their aunties, uncles, cousins, nephews, and the whole world the pictures of the cheating spouse doing bad things with the other person.
Cardi B has a song where she says,
we're quoting Cardi. Yes.
Send nudes to my man, wake up and see your boobs on the gram, little bitch. That's pretty much exactly what is the problem here. But there's also hackers.
Hackers.
That's another potential for how people could obtain.
And hackers are their own problem. But let's limit this conversation to
intentional wrongdoing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, their instinct is, I caught my man or I caught my girl cheated on me.
Yep.
They're a dirty slut or they're dirty whatever, and I'm going to show the world. I am going to get my revenge for my heart being broken, for my trust being trampled on. And
you're going to feel what I feel. Yeah.
At times 10.
Yeah. And
I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to make you look so bad that you will never get over your dirty deeds.
Yep.
I'm gonna up you. And that's a gut reaction that a lot of people have.
It is.
And they do it. Without thinking, they don't think twice. And we're here to tell them, in this state, in the state of Iowa, what are they doing with every photograph they redisseminate without that person's consent?
Committing an aggravated misdemeanor.
Yeah, it is a crime.
Yes.
Punishable by up to 2 years in prison.
An $8,000 or $8,540 fine.
Up to.
Per charge.
And per charge. And they can base each charge. We've had them 60-something count charges. each count based on each communication, each dissemination that happens. So you can be the jaded ex-husband, jaded ex-wife,
but you better have money.
You better have you're
better have money and a little bit of time to sit in jail, maybe.
You do it, but you end up being the criminal.
Yes.
Not only is your heart broken, you turn into a criminal.
Yeah. And it's not a good look.
No, I understand it would probably be a good feeling.
Briefly.
Like, ha.
Yeah.
Until you walk into the fact that law enforcement is knocking on your door saying,
yeah,
donut.
You again?
Did you send this?
Yeah. So reason why we're really talking about this is there is a new cause of action civilly. Okay. So we have this criminal charge.
What are the elements of the criminal charge?
So a person disseminates or publishes or causes dissemination or publication.
Got you.
Of a photograph or film showing another in full or partial nudity or engaged in sexual activity. And the offender must know that the person has not consented to the circulation of the material.
And it's an affirmative consent requirement. I mean, if we look at, we'll talk about, actually, that's on the civil side.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's in essence intentionally sending somebody or showing somebody or posting pictures of the naughty business taking place with somebody else without their consent.
Yep.
So sending it to the new boyfriend saying, hey, has he or she done this yet with you? That qualifies.
That's, aggravated misdemeanor. Call a lawyer. But also now, so the criminal side of things, that's how this has typically been handled as this has arisen.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Before we go, the crime, and this is between adults over the age of 18.
Okay.
Okay. That's the aggravated misdemeanor harassment.
This is a good disclosure.
This is good disclosure. If any of the individuals depicted in the photograph or in the video or in the whatever it is that gets shared is under the age of 18, that is dissemination of child pornography.
And that is bad.
That's a federal offense, minimum 10 years. I believe dissemination, I haven't looked at it in a while, starts at 15 years.
I've looked at it recently, and yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, kids, people under the age of 18, 1, don't take pictures of your naughty parts. 2, don't send them to other people. 3, if they break up with you, do not send that or share it with your friends or do anything with that material. It needs to be deleted, destroyed, because that is child pornography. The minute you push send, you are disseminating it. That's a federal offense. That's the last place you want to be.
Yes.
Okay, are we clear? We're clear. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. That the penalties for under the age of 18 and even for offenders under the age of 18. I was in high school, like this was a common thing.
Yeah. No,
it's an everyday occurrence of pictures being sent around of not people of age.
Right. Don't do it.
No.
If you're doing it, stop it.
Yeah.
It's a crime.
And if you get broken up with in high school or, delete, don't.
Delete, don't send.
Don't send.
Oh, look at that. We'll get a T-shirt that says delete, don't send. Okay.
So criminal is typically the first people typically report to law enforcement, and criminal charges sometimes arise from these sorts of things. But the criminal justice system is not really intended to make the victim whole.
Correct.
It's not punishment. It's a punishment. That's the intent of it. So recently, Iowa, along with most other states, passed a statute that defines a civil cause of action for a identifiable person in intimate pictures or videos that are distributed, and you can now sue.
So a civil cause of action is you can sue the person who disseminated your private pictures.
Yep.
And you can get compensated. You can get paid for the damage that is caused by that wrongful conduct. So not only does a person get potential locked up, go to jail, then they get hit with a $1.2 billion,
I mean, really, if you think about it, like, can you imagine this guy was so sad about the breakup that he decided to send out all these pictures. And now what's he going to do? Half of his paycheck is going to his ex-girlfriend for the rest of his life.
That's a loss. That's a big
L. That's an L. You got to think about that every time.
And imagine you do it to a point where you end up in prison. So
you're working for
half of your license plate work, the
14 cents an hour,
is going to the person who broke your heart.
Yeah, and locked you up.
You're losing.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the
no commissary for you.
No prison ramen.
No.
Okay, so the civil code. So what they've done now is said, hey, if you're violated by this type of conduct, we're going to make it very specific and very clear that you can sue the person who offends you, who does this wrong.
Yep.
That's phenomenal.
And what is also, I think, interesting about this cause of action is there's also, you can recover if you were just threatened with disclosure, which is a common thing, as we've talked about before, and we're going to talk about again with what but people have termed sextortion.
I thought we invented that term
Yes.
last time we talked about it. It turns out it was already there.
Unfortunately. You still did invent it.
In my head.
In your head, exactly.
I win.
Exactly.
So the threat of disclosure is also, you can also sue.
Yeah.
And this is fun because this ties into the last episode where we talked about what your phone saves, what your phone can tell about you, and what your phone can be used as evidence of different things. So those threats tend to be they're not in person over a couple of beers. You can't break up with me. I'll send these pictures to everybody.
Yep.
There's going to be text messages. There's going to be social media messaging. There's going to be electronic communication that has a trail that can be secured and used to prove your case.
Yep.
Now, before this law came into being, were there other civil types of causes of action that could have been used even without the specific statute?
Yes. One of them would be an invasion of privacy claim, which would be, there's several different theories I think that it could potentially fall under. One being public disclosure of private facts is a subsection of invasion of privacy, and that's one. I wrote down another one that I don't remember.
That's why we prepared.
Yeah.
I like it.
Or intentional infliction of emotional distress probably would be the two.
And those could fit, but I mean, there's always going to be ways, to because they're not specific. They're not specific to this type of action.
Exactly.
To say, it's not covered.
Yep.
And so, intentional infliction of emotional distress, I believe, requires physical manifestations of injuries.
Or even if you think about it, intentional infliction of emotional distress, hey, I wasn't doing it to cause emotional distress to this person. I was doing it because I wanted to make money off of them.
Or I wanted to show the world how terrible of a person they are.
Exactly.
I wanted to let everybody know that person has STDs.
Not saying that would actually be a successful defense, but
makes it much difficult.
It does. Means that the plaintiff has to dispute your defense.
So can we give, for once, the Iowa legislature a big high five?
I think we can after this one.
All right. I don't like to do it, but but after we did the research, after we looked this up, I'm going to agree with you that they get a pat on the back for this because it's a great step in the right direction to deal with. It's a problem. It's a big deal, and so to allow people to sue the offending people is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, and The consequences to someone's life if they're the victim of this, if the person's a professional, you're putting job at risk, their professional reputation at risk. You could be expelled from school.
Yeah, you get kicked out of a Christian school for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. Forced to change your name, follows you around. One I found defamed as a sexual predator, which is something I think that we see in sextortion cases. The consequences to people's lives does justify its own cause of action to protect people.
And we're open for business on this. Like this is an area that we know a lot about. We're happy to run with anybody that needs help on this. Yeah. What do we have to prove?
Okay.
What has to be proved in order to fall under that law?
So the depicted individual, which means the person that is depicted in the photo or film, needs to be identifiable.
Okay. You got to be able to tell who it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Or there needs to be at least identifying characteristics in the photo. Birthmarks. Tattoos. Piercings. Moles. Background. Something on the wall. Okay. Any way that this could potentially, it doesn't have to mean that the whole world knows that this is you, but
people who know you, be like,
know you, if they saw that, okay, that's definitely Donut, like
an FG shirt,
exactly. So the plaintiff has to suffer harm,
okay,
and from the person's intentional disclosure or threatened disclosure of an intimate image that was private without the depicted individual's consent, has a cause of action against the person if the person knew or acted with reckless disregard of all of the following. 1, the depicted individual did not consent to the disclosure. 2, intimate image was private. And 3, depicted individual was identifiable.
Okay, so we got to know who it was.
Yep.
It has to be an intimate image.
Yep.
Which involves nudity or engaged in sex act.
Yep.
And there has to be
no consent.
No consent, and it's not. Well, in order to defend against an accusation like this in civil court, you have to prove that you affirmatively had consent to disclose.
Lack of protest or silence in response is not consent.
Okay.
Statutorily.
So
they wrote that in the definitions.
In other words, I text you, Donut, I got these pictures. I'm going to post them all over. If you don't pay me or, if we don't get back together and you don't say anything.
That is not consent.
That's not consent. You would have to pretty much sign a permission slip saying, I
authorize you, name, to disclose these on XYZ. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yes. So what else is interesting about this is the definitions. They've changed around a lot of the definitions to essentially create this cause of action that, one, makes sure that someone has actually consented to the disclosure.
Correct.
And the intent is to make sure that they're only catching wrongful conduct. So there's several different exceptions that we also will talk about.
Well, let's talk about them.
So an individual will not be liable if the defendant proves, so it's the defendant's burden to prove any of these exceptions, that the disclosure or the threat of disclosure was in any of the following circumstances. 1, made in a good faith effort to give it to law enforcement, legal proceedings, medical education or treatment.
Makes sense.
2, made in good faith in reporting or investigating unlawful conduct or unsolicited or unwelcomed conduct.
Okay. Sexual harassment, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And or other.
Reasonably intended to assist the depicted individual is one, and related to a matter of public concern or public interest is another one. And we talked about this morning. It's stumped me for about 12 hours now about how could non-consensual pornography ever be public concern? Because it certainly is not your ex-wife that's cheating. And it's not your ex-wife that's cheating if your ex-wife is a public figure.
Could that be potentially media reporting on situations that would show stills that are kind of blanked out and they're talking about the story? Remember, for example, think back a long time ago. You made I don't even know if you were watching the news back then, but my generation, we had the Paris Hilton scandal.
Okay.
Right? When sex tapes of Paris Hilton got released.
Yep.
It was all over the news. It was a big deal. And they talked about her. She was a public figure. She wanted to be a public figure. And that was one of the things, maybe the news media could talk about it. Obviously, they're not going to show the naughty bits.
Yep.
But they could talk about it as a news story of public concern.
Yeah.
And maybe it falls under that.
Maybe.
Chances are, I'm guessing the media is like, hold on, when do we get to report on stuff?
And I think that it's, I mean, it's interesting because I think that would be not a line that they would want to draw just because of recent events of hackers and getting into clouds of celebrities is like a big risk to fame, is having your privacy violated in ways.
Sometimes it makes you more famous, I guess.
Yeah, I get Kim K.
Okay.
But yeah,
so there's exceptions.
There is exceptions, and it was drafted with the intent to make sure that there are exceptions. There's also exceptions for like parents of young children, so long as they don't meet any sort of unlawful.
The naked bathtub pictures.
Yes, it is a defense that is limited to having care, custody, guardianship, young child, not inappropriate. But of course.
So, like the Morton Salt label, the kid with the donkey.
Yes.
Okay. But I ultimately, it does not. It's not a defense that they cheated on you.
No.
It's not a defense that they decided to have an affair with your best friend.
Nope.
It's not a defense of anything like that we would normally see these types of situations arising.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you don't get to redisseminate or show everybody. You can tell them. You can verbally tell them. Can you not? What you found.
Yeah.
You could tell people, hey, I found videos of my ex and so-and-so doing the dirty. This is what they were doing.
Yep.
You'll never believe it. Oh my God, I'm so heartbroken and mad.
Yep.
You could tell them that, but you just can't be like, see, watch, I'll prove it to you and send that to them or show it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And just because someone sent it out themselves, if it was a picture or video that was taken by someone of themselves and then willingly, voluntarily shared, that does not mean now that this person also consents to further disclosure.
In other words, there's no sexting defense.
No.
Because if somebody's sharing it with another person, it's presumed in essence that that's going to be private, unless they say, hey, by the way, show Joe or show Sherry, whatever it may be. Unless there's explicit consent to redisseminate, it for your eyes only.
Yes, and that is a new presumption in the law because, I mean, I think about like third parties and attorney-client privilege, right? Even though you don't necessarily intend for someone else to gain access to something that sometimes isn't a defense. Okay.
So we prove those things.
Yep.
And the defenses don't apply. How are damages? What kind of damages? So what in law we call financial compensation, or what happens as a result of the harm, damages.
Yep.
And then we try to put a number or value those damages in law. What are the different types of damages? Different things that people can be compensated for.
So, as the statute says, there needs to be harm. It can be emotional harm, and unlike intentional infliction of emotional distress, you do not need to have a physical symptom in relation to your emotional harm.
Yeah. You saying this sucked.
Yes.
Is enough.
Yeah. And that's
no pun intended.
Stomach aches is something that intentional infliction of emotional distress, like actual physical reactions to the amount of emotional turmoil you're in is a requirement of other causes of action.
Me being able to verbalize, I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed.
Exactly.
I can't go in public.
That is okay here, which makes sense.
Yep.
This is the most harm this can do is obviously to someone's head. Yeah. You can get harm or damages for actual damages, which would mean like probably lost wages if you had to stop going to work. If you're a teacher, this is going to be a problem for your job. Yeah. So you're going to not be able to work for a while.
Medical expenses,
counseling. You can also get attorney's fees and costs if you are successful, which is intended to promote attorneys taking these cases.
We'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And punitive damages is allowed.
That makes sense.
Yep. And
punitive damages are damages above and beyond what's required to make the person whole. In other words, the idea is we allow, in certain cases, juries to punish defendants financially for their naughtiness.
Yes.
And it's usually saved for the worst of the cases, intentional.
Rare.
Yeah. And so they're saying, hey, on top of paying you back for your lost wages, your emotional harm, your physical pain, mental pain and suffering, your medical expenses, we're going to add an additional calculation that a jury can do to say, what's it going to take to punish this defendant and deter other people from doing it again?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think another one in the harm is professional reputation is one that's going to be like if this happens to a young professional, definitely don't do it to a young professional because you could actually really harm their future career and have to compensate for the next 20 years of potential harm that you caused.
Yeah.
And last one is statutory damages, which means that even if a plaintiff doesn't want to go through the full litigation process, if they're able to prove the elements, you get $10,000 per defendant.
Up to
$10,000 per defendant.
So that's that plus whatever else you want to try to prove up as damages.
Yep.
That's a big deal. And I think the other thing is this is also going to be considered. So say we get that judgment.
Yep.
And the person tries to follow her. I'm going to declare bankruptcy. Like we talked about at the very beginning, because it's an intentional act or an act recklessly committed.
Yep.
It falls outside of the types of judgments that can be discharged in bankruptcy.
So it's following you.
It follows the person forever.
Yeah.
So you finally win Powerball. Wonderful. Now
Thank you.
Now we get our $1.2 billion.
God, can you imagine if that actually happened?
But so cases like think to some current events in the Des Moines area that have been highly publicized regarding certain bar owners.
Yeah.
And their
I might know.
Their nefarious activities.
Yeah.
You can't tell me, I'll be curious, you can't tell me that there aren't situations out there where people like that are engaging in activities that are absolutely covered by this type of litigation that have the financial ability to pay judgments, or their businesses have the financial abilities, because that's another thing is when you're weaving your business with your personal, now you open up the assets of your business.
And you can sue businesses under this.
Huh?
A person
for
a defendant can be any sort of legal entity.
So if a legal entity is doing it?
Any sort of legal entity could be sued.
Okay.
I think that you could probably sue of a bar owners using their bar to gain access or there's got to be some actual circumstance where that gets tied
But
in.
my point is the dirty shenanigans that people have been getting away with in order to extort victims opens them up to these types of causes of action that sting a lot more than probation on a misdemeanor or,
or a $300 fine on a simple misdemeanor.
Correct. For some really shady shit.
Yeah.
When there's a way to come back and say, all right, now we're gonna hit you where it actually hurts.
Yep.
And something that's gonna follow you around. Mm-hmm. These types of tools are imperative for this to happen. Statute of limitations.
4 years after discovery.
So normally you can't sue somebody if you don't sue them within 2 years of when the injury occurred.
Which seems like a really short amount of time. In my full year and a half of practice, the speed of which time passes is terrifying.
Sucks being grown up, doesn't it? When you're a kid, you're like, oh, when's next month?
It's so long.
Now you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does go fast. And it's important in this type of case because, one, sometimes people don't know right away. And also there is going to be some complications unless you find people that are willing to put in the work of figuring out who is posting these. Yeah. You have to do a lot of back-end work.
There's digital
and sifting
discovery.
Through digital evidence. And that's also why I think it's interesting that in the statute it says costs are also included in attorney's fees and costs.
Expert witnesses can be applicable. Yep. So it's double. So you have twice as long to file the lawsuit.
Yes. And it's 4 years after discovery.
So there's a built-in.
As long as it was reasonable discovery.
So it's a built-in discovery rule.
Yep.
Is what we call that in the law.
Yep.
What if these things take place across state lines?
So there's what Iowa passed is. It's a uniform, unauthorized disclosure of intimate acts is what it's called. And what that means is it's 48 states, I think, right now have passed similar legislation. But the federal government also has passed similar legislation that will allow for interstate disclosures to all be prosecuted.
So the important part of the federal regulation is that I live in Iowa.
Yep.
And say somebody does something and discloses it in Georgia or in Tennessee or in California. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go there to sue them. If interstate commerce was used, the internet,
the wires,
if the wires are used or the Wi-Fi, the fake wires are used to transmit this information to another state, we can sue them in our home state.
Yes. And bring them here.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's like where what's interesting, the $10,000 per defendant is also another interesting route you can take. If this is something where this is like sent around in a group chat multiple times or, there's potential for there to be a lot of defendants.
So this is a word of caution, when you get it, when somebody sends it to you and you think it's funny or you think, oh, I'm going to show somebody else. If you push send and continue that, what did they used to call those things back in the day? Chain emails?
Yeah.
You got
like the forward for 5 years so you don't have 5 years of bad luck or whatever. Yeah.
Those types of things. The minute you push send, you become a defendant.
Yes.
Whether you wanted to or not.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Don't.
Have the personal restraint to say, no, it ends with me. I'm not.
And you should know better.
You should.
Yeah. To not continue to disclose, which.
Correct.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is, I think this is like just these types of actions as of right now, which you may know more other than like custody or cases involving minors, but you can actually sue as the plaintiff, not under your name. You can sue with your initials, which is different than bringing really any other sort of civil cause of action, where we would have to tell people like, hey, you're going to get drugged through the mud a little bit when you put your name on this. It needs to happen sometimes, but in this types of case, you do get to protect your identifying characteristics to an extent, of course.
Well, it's only going to make it worse, right? Like, so they publish all this, and now I'm going to take I'm going to put my name on a published Court of Appeals decision or Supreme Court decision.
Yep.
Then everybody knows what kind of things I did.
Exactly. But you can file things under seal without having to ask the court.
Okay.
And suing in your name and basically redacting most identifiable information in the public filings.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the right way to do it.
Yep. And the court it has total discretion to add any more privacy measures that they think are necessary.
Because ordinarily the rule is criminal or civil court conduct, and what happens in a court proceeding is public.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing is say, all right, we're not going to re-victimize the victim.
Yep.
We're not going to make it worse. In fact, we're going to protect them and allow them to go through with these cases and not make things worse for them, for being able to revenge what took place to them.
And the defendant would also be bound by a court order to, especially within the course of litigation, to respect that.
Yeah. No more resending the sentence.
No.
Yeah.
And no more continuing to tell everyone about it. But
that's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. I don't even think we need to get into the sextortion or the other stuff. I think hitting this head on with, what's the criminal implications, what's the civil implications, how are you able to make things right after you are literally humiliated and embarrassed? There is a very good opportunity to have the last say in these types of situations.
And I have a do's and don'ts with Donut that we're going to expand on, but it's something we haven't talked about, but it's unique that also our civil cause of action statute will allow someone to recover for.
Do it. Let's do it. Do it, Donut.
So the title is "My Stalker is Making Fake, Not Suitable for Work Social Media Accounts of Me and OnlyFans, and has an OnlyFans with 1.8 thousand likes." Long story short, my baby daddy dated a psycho for about 3 years who has developed an obsession with me. They have split up now, and this has been only getting worse. But I just found out that she made fake Instagrams of me, stealing pictures from an old Instagram and then posting naked pictures and videos. So they're obviously posing as me. There was a link to an OnlyFans that had 1.8K likes. So she's apparently making money off of me. I do not have proof it's her, but I would bet money on it. What is my best course of action? Is this legal? Do I hire a lawyer, or is this criminal? Do I report it to the police? And how do I track down if it's her posting this anonymously? Ooh. I think when this happens, your first question is, are you identifiable? Is this revenge? Does this fit under the definition of revenge porn?
Save everything you can possibly see. Document.
Screenshot literally everything. Yeah. You have to preserve copies of the URL, of the interactions that are occurring on social media. You can reverse Google search the pictures that are posted to see where else the pictures are being posted. And one thing she notes in that is that she had posted these on an old Instagram account. So she was potentially making money and posting these at a different time. But just because you've consented to one sort of disclosure now does not mean that you have also consented to a different distribution of the same photos.
Did not even think of that. For example,
Yeah.
Is this our friend from cases past?
No, she had like 3 followers, and one of them was us.
But okay. So there's a lot of worms with this one because, so first and foremost, just because you post it yourself and agree to the people to see it on your own, doesn't mean you agree for other people to post and share. And more importantly, it's using your likeness.
Yes.
To make money off of you,
yep.
which is illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a NIL violation. I mean, that's not the right word for it, but it's the name, image, likeness.
Yep.
People cannot use your name, image, or likeness to make money without your consent and without just compensation.
Yep.
Period. So that's a dinger right there.
And if someone is making money off of your intimate photos of you, you are entitled to that money.
Yeah, absolutely.
You, like, go get your bag.
Yeah, I mean, make some money off of it. The other thing is, so should I contact law enforcement? I would contact law enforcement right away, primarily for the fact that you don't have subpoena power if there's not a pending action.
Yep.
Okay. So if I haven't sued somebody, I can't court order Facebook or Meta or whoever to produce the information. I need to track who it is.
Yeah.
So, but law enforcement has the ability to issue subpoenas, to issue search warrants, to obtain the identifying information of who created those accounts. Because as Dope Yoda explained, they're always going to be traceable to some type of email, and we're going to be able to backtrack.
Yep.
So you want to get law enforcement involved primarily to figure out if they're willing to take the effort, which can be difficult sometimes, but to at least figure out who's posting it, who's registered to those accounts, and then backtrack it that way.
Yeah. And there are ways, I think, to do it without law enforcement now. You have to be tech savvy, but there are sites where you can determine who the host of a website is. Okay. And so you can go top up trying to figure out essentially like getting a lawyer involved, where the lawyer is sending demand letters to the host website
to take them
down, and checking terms of service on every sort of site that it's posted on. I also think you could potentially go for an injunction to get it removed even before you file suit, but also you still need to be able to do the backtracking from an anonymous poster.
You want to know who posted it, because that's who's ultimately going to be liable. It would be interesting, though, to see what liability social media has or hosts have for not vetting and not verifying true identities of the people that create accounts, because that can be problematic as well.
And that their Communications Decency Act, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, federal law. Most sites are non-consensual porn is posted are user submitted content sites and that are protected, and unless it's a malicious poster. But I don't know that, like, I necessarily like that answer. I like yours better. What are they doing to figure out that this is actually the user that is posting? Because if they're not doing anything, then
they're facilitating and they're making money.
User submitted content.
They're making money off of irresponsibility. It's the same way that I personally think that the online gambling industry is going to get rung up for this underage gambling situation, because they don't do anything legitimately to verify identities. They don't require identifications to be submitted. You just got to put in the right information.
Yeah.
And so I can see there's going to be a class action that comes out of all that stuff, and similar types of situations. If there is a platform who makes money off of user submissions and they're not doing enough to regulate it and to ensure that they're valid submissions, there's a lot of those porn sites out there that do that kind of thing. They're on the hook.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to do some tracing. You're going to have to do some tracking.
And fighting.
A lot of fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of fighting. But, you know, if there's a pot at the end of the rainbow, it's worth doing. The other thing, here's one thing I thought about, ready to bend some reality.
Yep.
When you first started talking about this, I thought it was somebody creating AI imagery.
Okay.
So depictions
like
of that person.
It's their like deep fake porn is what they're calling it. And
Correct.
that is going to be the new problem, that this new cause of action might not, the law slow in technology and nefarious activities.
Well, because there's U.S. Supreme Court cases that say that anime or animated porn, even including children, is protected by the First Amendment
as art.
As art,
yeah,
because it's an artistic expression and it doesn't involve the actual individual.
Yep.
So there's no individualized victimization. It's just a recreation of a dirty thought.
Yep.
Which is, like it or not, art, and it's expressive. So that's a whole new level. I mean, maybe we dig into the weeds at some point on something like that, but
I mean, the lawsuit's going to happen because this is like, especially, I mean, this AI, it's really taken off in the last few months, but that's to celebrities. It's already happened of fake pornographic material of just random celebrities. And then posted all over the internet if it looks legit, which I will say a lot of the AI videos don't look legit yet. That's probably next month. But it will be interesting because you also could ruin a movie star's life.
Or amazing podcasters' lives.
Yeah.
Don't do it. So let's sum this up with the do's and don'ts.
I think do take as many precautions as you can if you find yourself in this situation. I'm sure it's not fun to try to track down everywhere it is on the internet, but you need to document everything.
Do document.
Everything you can find. You need to reverse search on Google all of the pictures to figure out exactly where it's posted, because multiple different postings, you need to go to those host sites, get some sort of court order to get things taken down. And there is way to get things off the internet. So through legal processes.
Do document.
Do report. Do lawyer up.
Don't take it.
Don't post it.
Well, that too. But you don't have to sit back and be a victim, because this does allow you to flip the script.
It does.
You know, 1, jail.
Yep.
Great. 2, judgment, even better.
Yep.
And you don't have to
sit back and lose your job and lose your life because of it.
Yep.
No, which is, make money off it. Fuck
Well,
it.
do have a plan to get back.
Yeah.
Do have.
And do take care of yourself when this happens. Like, if someone is experiencing extreme emotional distress because of this, just take care of yourself and like seek help, and you're entitled to compensation.
Do vindicate yourself.
Exactly.
Because damn it, you don't have to take it. There's ways to get back, and then you come out the winner.
Yep.
Do win.
Do win.
I love it. All right, that's all we got.
Cheers.
Cheers. Till next time.
We can't change the past, but we will change your future. GRL Law. Thanks for tuning in to GRL Raw. Check us out at grllaw.com.